Even with social media, your website is the cornerstone of your personal brand and of your business, and you should treat it with love. So today I'm going to show you how to create a beautiful hero section for your homepage with the Elementor page builder. So how do we do that?
Let's find out.
Hello, I'm your host Casino. I'm a digital alchemist, and today I'm going to show you how to create a beautiful hero section for the homepage of your website. Now, in case you don't know what a hero section is, Wikipedia tells us that in web design, a hero image is a large web banner image prominently placed on a web page, generally in the front and center. The hero image is often the first visual element a visitor encounters on the site. It presents an overview of the site's most important content. So in today's tutorial, we'll look at building a slightly different hero section than what we see on most websites. But enough talk.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to build today. As you can see, we have this hero section, and when we hover over any of the columns, then there's an overlay color that comes on top. And if we hover over the buttons, you can see there's an animation because the button seems to be hanging on each and every button. Then if we move to mobile view, so this is on a smartphone, we're emulating on iPhone 6, 7, or 8. And as you can see, there's a very subtle border underneath column 1, 2, and 3, just so that it's clearly separated for the navigation. It's cleaner this way. Okay. Because as you can imagine, we can't see the hover on a mobile, at least not when you're just looking at it or hovering with your fingers. So we need to have a way to separate the navigation, and the same is valid for the iPad. And if I refresh, you will see the entrance animations also. Now, if you move back to the desktop version, we don't need the borders because the overlay color makes the separation effective. So this is really a case where we have kind of a different scenario on desktop and on the smartphone and the tablet. And if you know this channel, I don't like when the mobile version is just a poor version of the desktop. I want each version to be rich in its own capacity. Now, one word about this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm really going to focus on creating the hero section that I've just shown you here. And I'm not going to focus on how to create a transparent header because I've already covered that in another tutorial for the Astra Pro theme. And you can also create a transparent header with the Astra Free theme. Now, you may be watching this and maybe using Ocean WP, GeneratePress, or any other WordPress theme, and most themes should be compatible with Elementor. Now, it's impossible to cover everything, so I'm really just going to focus on the hero section here. And by the way, this can be achieved with Elementor. You don't need Elementor Pro for that. Now, the things that I've done in the header here, I've used Elementor Pro. So if I click on login, you can see the login pop up, but you don't need to do that. This is just me because I wanted to do it this way, but you can actually create the same navigation with Astra Free, as I said. And you can add the button, but you won't be able to add a pop-up with Elementor because you need Elementor Pro for that. But for all the rest, and the focus of this tutorial once again is the hero section here with multiple call to actions or multiple sections, you can achieve that with Elementor, the free version. So how do we do that?
Let's find out.
So we're in WordPress admin, and the first thing we want to do is go to page, add new, and then we're going to create our home page. So for the time being, I'm just going to disable the title because I'm using Astra, but you may be using a different theme. So I'm just going to publish. I'm not adding any content at this point. And then you want to go to settings, reading, and you want to select a static page for the home page, and we're going to select the home page we've just created. So click on Save Changes. Okay, so now we can go back to our home, and because I'm using Astra, I'm just going to select the transparent header. Now, once again, this may be different for you, but if you're using Astra, you can just enable the transparent header this way. And then I'm going to hit Edit with Elementor. Okay, so now we're in Elementor, and the first thing we want to do is create a section with 4 columns. So I'm just going to select the 4-column structure. Okay, next I want to click on the section, and I'm going to edit the section. So in content width, select full width, and then for the height, I'm going to select minimum height, and then I'm going to click on VH for vertical height, and I'm going to give it a 100 vertical height. So it takes the whole screen. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to the Style tab, choose the background type, and I'm going to add an image. Now, I've already added an image in the media library, so I'm just going to select that one. Okay, and next I want to select no repeats, and the size should be cover. Okay, so it covers the whole section. So just to be sure, I'm going to update and save my work. Okay, so next I'm going to add a button. So I'm just going to click on the widgets icon, and I'm just going to drag a button in the first column. I want to center it, and I want it to be large. Okay. Now, for the text, I'm going to select About Me. Okay, and now I'm going to style the button to match the demo. So click on the Style tab. Text color should be white. It's already white, but I'm just going to make sure. Next, we want to edit the background color because we actually want to remove the background color. So I'm just going to drag the opacity to 0. Okay, and then I want to give it some kind of underline. So I'm going to give it a border solid. Then I'm going to unlink the values for the width of the border. And I'm just going to give it a 2 pixels bottom border. But I don't want the rounded corner here. So the border radius should be 0. Okay. I could even give it a 3 pixels border. Okay, so that looks good. And now I want to go to the hover state, and I'm going to give it a hover animation. And I'm going to select the bob animation. And as you can see, when you hover over the button, it just hangs in the air, and that's the effect that I've shown you in the demo. Now, currently, this button leads nowhere because if we go to the content tab in the link field, it's just the pound sign. Now, if this was a real website, we would actually type the name of the page we want to link to, and then Elementor would serve us the page dynamically. And then we just save, and the button would link to that page. But currently, as I said, this is just a tutorial, so we're going to focus on the hero section of the homepage. So once you're happy with the button, now is the time to style the column. But if you click on the column, as you can see, vertically, it only takes the space of the button, and we actually want to take the whole space vertically. So the first thing we need to do now is to actually edit our section. So click on Edit Section by clicking on the 6 dots here, and then make sure in the column position that it's set to stretch. And now, as you can see here, the column takes the whole space vertically. Okay, so we also want the content to be in the middle. So in the content position, select middle. Okay, so that's looking fine. And the next thing we want to do with our section is to give it a background overlay, because right now the button is not really readable, and I can only imagine if we paste it here. So let me do that. I'm just going to copy and paste the button here. You can't read anything, so we need to add a background overlay. So let's click back on our section, then go to the Style tab, Background Overlay, and we're going to give it a color as a background. So let's select black. That's a bit too dark, so let me drag the opacity down. Okay, let's say 0.2 should be okay. So the next thing we need to do is to actually start styling our columns. So click on the first column icon, then go to style, and we actually want to give it a background overlay, but as you can see here, there's no background overlay option. So to get the overlay option, select a background type, and we're going to select classic. And now that we've done that, you can see the background overlay option right here. So open the overlay option and select the hover state first. So once you've selected the hover state, click on the classic background type, and we're going to give it a color. So let's choose a blue color. As you can see here, when we hover over the element, it turns blue. And then we can play with the opacity. So at the moment, I'm going to leave it at 0.5. Okay, so that seems to be okay. So the next thing is to actually repeat the process for the other columns. So I'm just going to copy the button, paste it in each column. And if you're not familiar with it, I only right-clicked, clicked copy, and then right-clicked and clicked on paste. Okay, so now we need to copy the style to the other column. So we're going to copy the first column, and then we're going to right-click on the icon of the second column and paste style. Let's do the same for the third. And by the way, there are shortcuts that you can use, and they're written right here next to the different commands. So paste style, and now it works for each column. So next we want to change the labels of the buttons. So let me do that right now. Click on each button and change the text. And the last one. Okay, so that looks good. So now let's update our page. And now we're back on the front end of our website. And as you can see, it works perfectly when we hover over the section, and when we hover over the buttons, you can see the buttons hanging. So that's exactly what we wanted, and we can add a little touch. We can add actually entrance animations. So back in Elementor, let's click on the icon for the first column button, then go to the Advanced tab, and we're actually going to give it an entrance animation. So let's select Fade in Up, and we're going to give it a delay of 500 milliseconds. Okay, and we want to do the same thing for all the buttons. But to go quicker, I'm just going to copy, and then I'm going to paste the style for the third, and paste the style for the fourth button. Okay, now let's go back to the second button. We actually don't want all the buttons to load at the same time, so I'm going to increment by 500 milliseconds, so 1000 for the second. Then let's click on the third, Advanced, 1500. Then let's click on the fourth, Advanced, and as you've guessed it, 2000 milliseconds. Okay, so let's save, and now let's go back to the front end, and I'm just going to refresh the page. And as you can see, all the buttons are loading with 500 milliseconds of delay. So it looks really good. So now let's have a look at the tablet version. Okay, I don't think it works, so let me refresh the page. It could work, but it doesn't really look like a portrait tablet version, so let's fix that. So let's go back in Elementor and choose the tablet as responsive mode. Okay, so now we're in responsive mode. So select each column and give it 100% width. then repeat the process for the second, the third, and the fourth column. So that looks much better. So let's save, let's go back, refresh the page, and it's already looking much better. Okay, next we want to give each column a border as you've seen in the demo. So maybe I went too fast. So click on the border icon, then go to Style, Border, give it a solid border. And the first thing we want to do is to unlink the values of the width. And we just want to give it a 1 pixel bottom width. Now for the color, let's select some middle gray, and we're going to drag the opacity in the middle. So I'm just going to update that, then go back to the front end, and I want to have a look at how it looks. Okay, that may be a bit too dark, so let me change the opacity once again. So you may have to play with this depending on the picture that you're using, but yeah, it seems to be all right. Okay, so let me go back, and I'm just going to once again copy the column and then paste the style for the second and the third columns. We don't need it for the fourth column anyway. So click on update, then go back, refresh. Yeah, and it looks much better. As I said, you may have to play with the color of the border and the opacity, but you get the idea. So let's go back, and one thing we want to do is to change the position of the background image, because now you just don't see anything, you don't see the person. So click on the section, then go to the Style tab, and we are actually going to reselect our image. We don't want it to be repeated. We want it to be covered. Okay, and now in the position, we're going to select custom. So now we can drag our image vertically and horizontally. Okay, so that seems to be much better. So click on update. Let's go back. Let's refresh the page in. Yeah, that's looking much better. Once again, depending on the picture that you have, you're not going to have the same value that I have here. If we look at the negative value that I've chosen, so this is just common sense, but just play with the sliders and play with the border color. Okay, so now let's have a look at how it looks in the mobile mode. Seems to be okay. So let me go back, and I'm going to select iPhone 6. Let me refresh the page. Yes, looks nice. So let me go back. I still want to change the placement of the image. So once again, I'm going to select my image. Well, I could just leave it like that, but actually in the best case scenario, you would create a 16:9 ratio image and a 9:16 ratio image for the smartphone and the tablet. But for this tutorial, we can just use the same image. So once again, I'm going to select no repeats, cover, and for the position, I'm going to select custom, and now I can play with the vertical position. So I'm going to do it like this. Let me refresh. Yeah, and it looks nice to me. Actually, I could play with the opacity of the section background overlay. So if I go to background overlay, I could make it a bit darker, actually 0.3. So let's go back. And now the buttons are even more readable. So let's have a look at what we've achieved when we're in desktop mode. When we hover over the section, we can clearly see the blue color on hover, and when we hover over the elements, we can see them hanging, and this is the effect that we wanted. Now if we move to the mobile mode, completely readable, and we have the subtle border to really make a separation between the elements that we don't have with the hover, because we only get the hover on desktop. So it seems to be working fine. Actually, if this was a real website, I would play a little more with the color of the border until I've really reached what I want. But once again, you get the idea. And let's have a look at the iPad version. So let's refresh the page. And it looks nice to me. So we have a fully functioning heroes section that makes our website beautiful on the desktop, on the tablets, and on the mobile. So let's go back to the desktop version once again. Now, usually I prefer to have only one very clear call to action on the hero section, but there are some cases where you have a website with very little content, but with very different targets, that are speaking to different personas. And instead of having four big buttons, that all scream for attention, it's better to actually, in my opinion, just make a clear choice from the homepage. Just make sure that the person that's looking for group coaching or for coaching can spot it right away. The person that's looking for consulting can spot it right away, and you get the idea basically. Now, there are other ways to do it, but most websites look alike, and sometimes it's nice to have something a little bit different that you can throw on your website before everybody else does it. Now, I have not invented this, of course. Many people use it, but as I said, most websites look alike, and for a reason. It's because people are doing what works. But once again, for some type of businesses, you really need to help your audience make a choice from the homepage. So I've used that on a client website and found out that it worked. So that's why I'm sharing it with you today. So I hope that you now feel confident to create a beautiful hero section for the homepage of your website. Now, if there is any other Elementor tutorial that you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments. And by the way, you'll find the companion blog post on my website, casino.com. And of course, the direct link is in the description of this episode. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, as it really helps growing this channel. And if you know someone that could benefit from it, please share it now. If you're not yet a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Now, if you want to brand, market, and grow your business in the digital age, then make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter so that you never miss your share of digital alchemy, as well as tips, tools, services, and case studies that can help you grow your business online. So that's it for this episode. I hope to see you around, and in the meantime, don't forget to invest
in your success.